Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a really critical piece of crypto infrastructure. It's kind of like the unseen engine that quietly powers the entire blockchain world. And if it fails, well, it can bring everything crashing down.
All right, so let's get right to the core problem here. By themselves, blockchains are completely isolated. I mean, they're incredibly powerful, but they are also totally sealed off from the outside world.
Just think about it for a second. A blockchain has no clue what the price of Bitcoin is. It doesn't know if it's raining in New York, and it has absolutely no idea who won the Super Bowl. It just exists in its own little digital bubble. Now, this creates a huge vulnerability. You've got all these smart contracts in finance, in insurance, you name it, and they all depend on getting accurate, real-world information to do their job correctly. They need a secure and reliable pipeline to that outside data. Because here's the kicker, if that pipeline gets fed bad data, even if it's off by just a little bit, the consequences can be, catastrophic. We are talking about manipulated prices, people getting liquidated when they shouldn't, and entire systems just failing completely. So you got to understand, this isn't just some small technical detail. The way blockchains connect to real-world data is one of the biggest, most high-stakes risks in this entire decentralized ecosystem. The solution to this data problem, at least up until now, has been this special kind of bridge to the real world. And in the crypto space, we call this bridge an oracle. So in the standard model, real-world data doesn't just poof appear on the blockchain. Nope, it has to pass through a third-party middleman, an oracle node operator, who is responsible for relaying that information. But see, this middleman brings its own baggage, costs, complexity, and new ways for things to break. So the big question becomes, what if we could just get rid of that layer entirely? And that is the core idea behind a project called API3. The API3 model is a totally different way of thinking. The original source of the data, the API provider itself, connects directly to the blockchain. I mean, look how simple that is. It just cuts out that entire middle step. And there's a name for this new approach. It's called a first-party oracle. So instead of trusting a middleman to pass along the data, you're trusting the people who created the data in the first place. You're going straight to the source. So how does API3 actually pull this off? Well, it boils down to three key things. First, you've got something called AirNode, which is basically a simple piece of software that makes it super easy for data providers to connect. Second, there are DAPIs, which are just ready-made data feeds for common stuff like asset prices. And finally, and this part is absolutely key, there's a DAO and a staking system to govern the whole network. This provides a real financial guarantee for the data's integrity. Providers have to stake their own money as collateral, putting their own skin in the game to ensure the data they provide is accurate. This whole direct approach, it really brings us to a fundamental, almost philosophical debate about the best way to get data onto the blockchain. You know, most of the Oracle solutions out there, like the big one, Chainlink, their whole philosophy is, let's decentralize the group of middlemen. They use lots of independent operators to all fetch and agree on the data. But API3's philosophy is totally different. They're asking, why do we even have a middleman? Let's just eliminate them. And when you think about it, the potential advantages of this direct approach are pretty obvious, right? It's usually cheaper and way simpler because you've just ripped out a whole layer. It means there are fewer potential weak spots where things can go wrong. And critically, the original data provider's own reputation is now directly on the line. But, and this is a huge but, this whole amazing model hinges on one single crucial question. Are the traditional companies that actually own the data, the weather services, the big financial data firms, are they actually willing and able to connect directly to the blockchain themselves? And that question leads us straight to the real-world risks for this project. Its success is heavily, heavily dependent on convincing these providers to adopt their tech. It also faces incredibly strong competition from players who are already well established, and it has to constantly fight for market visibility. So let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. Oracles aren't just some hyped-up trend anymore. They've become the silent, essential foundation of the crypto world. They're the invisible infrastructure that makes everything else possible. And this right here is exactly why this stuff matters so much. If a major Oracle system fails, it's not just one app that crashes. It can trigger a catastrophic domino effect across hundreds of different protocols, and it could potentially wipe out millions, even billions in value. This isn't just an app-level problem. It is a structural, systemic one. So, when it all comes down to it, this whole debate leaves us with a really provocative question about what we truly value in these systems. Is the goal to have maximum decentralization at every single step, even if that adds complexity? Or is a more direct, more efficient, and maybe just simpler connection to the source of truth the better way forward?
Because in the end, whether the dominant model is API3's first-party approach or something else entirely, we have to remember this. The technology that brings reality to the blockchain, that's the invisible foundation supporting everything we're trying to build on top of it. And if that foundation cracks, everything else comes tumbling down.